Hey, team, welcome back to another episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader podcast. This is Mark, your host, and today I'm on with Scott Messer from HGS Bioscience. Man, Scott, thank you for taking the time to be on here with me today.
Oh, you're welcome, Art. Thank you for having me on board on the call. I'm looking forward to our conversation today and talking more about intentional leadership.
Absolutely. This is going to be fun. All right. What does it mean for you, Scott, to be intentional?
So I think to be intentional is be deliberate. Deliberate.
Mm.
I mean, it's an active deal. It's not passive. We're not going to kind of wander into success. Early in my career, I managed a guy, and he kind of oversaw the grounds on a golf course that I was managing, and his answer to everything was, "Oh heck, it'll be all right." He just left so much in the air, and from that, I just took, "Oh heck, it won't all be all right." So there's some things we've got to be intentional about. We've got to set the path. And then we've got to kind of hold the accountability to that path, So it's, I think, deliberate. It means the same, but it's also kind of the same approach my wife and I took to parenting. Is we're just deliberate with our time. We had some things that were non-negotiable, that we wanted to hit and we wanted for our children, and I think hopefully it made a difference in their life. They both have jobs now. And so they're not as much a financial burden on me, but hopefully it worked. So, and hopefully,
Yeah.
what I try to take that to the job is hopefully, our the teams I lead are able to find success, and the teams that I'm part of, we're doing the right things to win more often. So,
That's congrats on having the two girls out of the house, gainfully employed. You got them to the next phase of
it's
life,
a good
right?
feeling. It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So,
What I find is most people that are very deliberate, right? Is we kind of a lot of people have been defining intentional as being deliberate, right? And when I think about deliberate, I think about the fact that I have to deliberate, right? Like you have to spend time thinking. You have to invest time
right,
thinking about what that takes. That takes time, conversation, reflection, knowing what you want,
right.
at the end of the day. So, how do you find the time, or where do you get the time to sit down and really be deliberate so that you can be intentional with your actions?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's find a time and sit down to deliberately deliberate, but it's in the quiet moments that you just kind of just think of, it enters your mind. Okay, what do I need to do? What are the intentions I have for the upcoming time frame? Whether it's a week, the month, the year, and what I need to do to make that work. And so, I hope one day to have to set time aside to kind of, mark all those things out. But right now, it's just kind of in the still moments, or the quiet moments when my brain's not running 1,000 miles an hour, that I try to slow down and kind of think about the bigger strategy, the bigger, the bigger plan, to make sure that we don't miss things. The thing, if you're not intentional, if you don't have a good plan, you're going things are going to get missed.
Mm.
And when you're young, growing up, you hear all kind of things. A failure to plan is a plan to fail. Those kind of things stick with me. I'm not a very complex guy, so when you break things down like that, it really helps me. And so I think, but that's that I think that really stuck with me. And my wife and I are, fortunately, we're both planners, so we don't fight each other on that. So that definitely helps too. So planning, and figuring out that plan is really important. So,
That was a selfish question on my behalf. I'll be honest with you, because that's probably the one thing about being intentional that I struggle
yeah,
the most with. My brain is not naturally wired for in-depth planning. I'm
yeah,
a big picture guy. Put the people around me that can help me get there. Let's go. Right.
right,
I like to quarterback, and I think that's okay. I think there's strength in that, and it's also really frustrating because sometimes the downstream negative effect of that is that you end up in a position that maybe you didn't want to be in because you were not as well planned. So I'm
right.
always picking people's brains that are the good planners. Neither my wife or I, quite the opposite of you guys. Neither one of us is a good planner, and of the two of us, I think I might be the best. And that's scary because I know where I'm at.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say I'm a good planner, but I do like, I mean, I do better with a plan. So, yeah.
You bet. Good stuff. All right. Let's talk a little bit about talent and retaining talent, because I know a lot of folks in agribusiness right now struggling with that. That's a big thing that a lot of my clients are trying to solve for. How do we retain? How do we attract? How do we do
Right.
all those things? So, where does intention come into play as it pertains to your take on attracting and retaining good people?
Yeah, that's a great question because I've just kind of completed the first phase of building out a brand new sales force. The company I'm with, we've never had a dedicated domestic sales team. That's what I've been tasked with over the last few months. And when you're building it from the ground up, I think you got to have some ideas and to be intentional, but also to attract the talent and keep it. So, one thing that what I'm trying to do as I build this team out is make it a real collaborative effort. We've been able to attract some really good talent because we're in a space that's got a lot of growth potential. Over the next 5-10 years, and it's new, it's different. It's not necessarily new. It's a better mousetrap. Humic acids have been around for a long time, but it's a better mousetrap. So that we have. So just trying to create a collaborative team, obviously, compensating that team. We've got some aggressive growth goals here at our company. And so, we've kind of laid out is here's how, here's what you can make, but here's, where you can go with this. If you're able to accomplish your goals. And, I think we've set goals that are attainable. And, I think that makes a difference too. And we've tried to, create a stable environment where, like I said, everybody feels like they're a key part of the success.
You bet. As you talk about some of these things, I'm hearing big vision. There's a lot of upside in this particular part of the industry right now, and having a fair and uh, in some cases maybe aggressive compensation package, opportunities for growth. I think all these are key things, and I like to summarize it. And I'd be interested in your take on this: is giving people a clear understanding of what there is to have here, right? Like I think there's power in clarity. And
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, if we hit the numbers, and this is what you're getting paid.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I talked to an unfortunate number of salespeople that can't accurately explain to me their compensation package.
Yeah. And we've tried to make it real simple. I mean, we're a manufacturer, and I've tried not to get too crazy with it. But we set out a bonus target, and if we exceed that, then you can do this much more over your target. So I think we've been successful in establishing that, so that guys know, hey, this is how I can leverage my relationships. I can use my talents to really help this business grow, be part of something that's kind of taken off and it's got lots of upside. But then also they're going to take care of me too. They're not just going to ride my back, my relationships and wear me down. And that's money's not the only motivator for a lot of folks, but I mean, being able to pay your bills and have a little extra, for that bass boat or new motorcycle, it doesn't hurt. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a really intentional play here. Somebody did this with me one time. I think it was a financial planner that we were sitting down with, my wife and I, and she and I had just gotten together, and he asked the question in our intake conversation. He said, what is really important to you about making good, sound financial decisions with your money? And I thought, that's a really good question. Well, he asked us a question. Of course, we say the thing that everybody says, where we want to have, we'll be able to provide for the lifestyle and have retirement and take care of the kids and, have things paid off, et cetera. I mean, I think the things I think most people would say, right?
right.
Then he asked the question again, exact same question. So what else is important about making good decisions with your money? And so then you have to come up with another answer. And say something more in depth. Hey, I want to be able to, have enough to help whatever. Maybe I want to pay for kids' college education or something like that. I don't even remember what I said, at that point. But we went through about 10 rounds of him asking that question. When I got really clear on why making good decisions with money is important, I was willing to work a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Right. I was willing to go a little bit further. And so as an employer, when you show me, hey, here's how it is. And I think there's a cool question or conversation that that leaders can have with their people is like, hey, what's really important? What is it that you're saving up for? What do you want? What do you want to get? What can I celebrate with you when you're able to ring that bell?
Yeah.
So
No, that's a good story. And I'm kind of in a season of my life, I'm recalibrating those goals. I've got two kids on their own, they got their own jobs, they got some weddings. I used to tell when folks ask me what motivated me, I'll say cars, college, and weddings. And they'd always get like, they're like, what? And I'm like, so I got $2, and first we got to get them cars, and then we got to get them through college, and then hopefully it goes college weddings. It might not. It may go wedding college, but there's weddings I got to pay for because that's part of having daughters. That's lots of the fun stuff that comes along with having daughters. And but now I've got about 85% of that taken care of, and so now I'm having to recalibrate my goals. So it's I'm a goal setter, and now I'm having to go through that process. And I like to understand when I'm working, when I'm hiring someone, what are you working for? What's motivating you? And I really love the answers that don't just say money. Because when I said cars, college, and weddings, it was, yeah, I need money for those, but really it was to create some happiness and some stability in my family's life, so it was more than just here's the money. It's what could, reaching those goals. And I really appreciated companies that I went to work for that give me that opportunity to get past just the regular base salary, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about being able to create those memories. That's to
Right.
me, that's the intention, right? That's the things that I'm working toward are those moments, where
Yeah.
yeah, I got two girls too. So I get to watch them walk down the aisle and know that they don't have to worry about, they don't have to go in debt to get married. They don't have to go into debt to go to college, et cetera. Like those
Right.
are things that absolutely motivate me because I probably did it the opposite way. And so, you know, but it's that to me is part of what this podcast is about is helping people think about how do I be more intentional about having clarity and setting goals and getting out there to go be deliberate, like you talked about. So it's a great word and a great answer. So let's talk a little bit about culture for a minute. I know I'm sure you've been around a number of them over the years. I think some people do a good job of this. Some people aren't super intentional. I think there's a lot of accidental cultures out there. So what's most important to you about building good intentional culture for this new team that you've got going?
Yeah. So I think it really alignment in leadership, I think is important in kind of building this culture out. So a previous company, we were in the process of rebuilding a culture, creating a more customer-centric safety culture. And then here, some of the same things carry over. We want to make sure we've got a great, safe employment for all our safe place for all our employees to work. But then also we want to be customer centric, and that really takes alignment in leadership. If your leadership team, operations feels one way about the customer experience, and commercial team feels one way about safety, you're really not ever going to get there. But really creating that alignment, and I think that starts to catch on when everybody on the team starts to see the alignment in the different segments of the business, in finance, in operations, in the commercial team. So I think that's key, is to get everybody kind of singing from the same book. And then also you want it to be a fun place to work. We want people to enjoy working here. They feel safe, they feel comfortable, they can collaborate. We were so a couple of folks, the CFO, the chief operations officer, and I were interviewing the admin assistant, a few months back, and this happened on a couple of interviews. Is a chief operating officer said, look, when I came on board, I told Mike, our CEO, I was like, hey, I don't want to work with buttholes, and a little bit more colorful, but that's the message.
Yeah,
And so it's kind of resounded all the way through some other interviews we've had. So we don't want to work with jerks. We want to have an environment that everybody can feel like they're part of the team. They're all contributing. That's why we've hired the people we've hired them to contribute to really growing this business and making it work. So I think it's, this is probably the first time I've had to start kind of from scratch on being able to expand a culture or make it bigger. But yeah, alignment, and then like I said, that alignment just kind of goes back to our word for the day, intentionality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it takes work, right? to keep
Right.
the leadership team in alignment, because you get a few different alphas walking around, or could be alphas on that team. Everybody's got their own ideas.
Yeah.
Alignment can go south pretty quick, man.
No, it can. It does take effort, but when when you're working with it, and I've seen it go the opposite way when not everybody was in a line, and it was just like pulling teeth, and and of course been part of some big cultures, big companies, publicly traded companies, privately owned companies, seeing a lot of different cultures in my career. But I think being able to be in a position now to kind of impact, one from kind of scratch,
Mm,
it's a lot of fun. So,
yeah. Awesome. I love it. What's been the biggest hurdle you've had to overcome in your career, Scott?
so I think probably the biggest hurdle is becoming a better communicator and learning that just because I communicated something doesn't mean that it was received. I know when I was a young guy running a landscape company and also working in golf course management, I was grounds assistant ground superintendent. Early in my career,
Mm-hmm.
you'd send a directive out and then it might get 60% done, or and it's so I think I don't know if that was a me thing or if it was just having to learn how people communicate. But I think that's been one of the bigger hurdles for me to get over. There's probably others, but that was kind of the first one that came to mind. And learning that just because you put the message out there, on a Teams call, in person, in a memo back in the old days, and now in email, learning that there's got to be more. There's kind of got to be some follow up to that communication so that everybody's kind of on the same page, because everybody receives communication different.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So there, I want to pry into that one just a little bit, because I know a lot of people probably listen to this get triggered like maybe you and I do when we ask somebody to do something, but it only gets done about half as good or three-quarters as good as it needed to get done.
Right.
Right. My frustration, I'm always looking for people around me who can think about the thing that I'm not thinking about, or the thing maybe I forgot to say. So I know that there's a communication aspect in there, but there's leadership fatigue. We need people around us also that maybe are able to think about some of the things that we forgot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's nice to have somebody who's got some initiative or a little bit of forethought that can complement some of those places that we fall down. But here's my question for you. So do we get that with just being a better, more clear communicator? Or do we get there by inspecting the work, going back and then reteaching and setting expectations? And I know it's a balance. It's not a
Yeah.
black and white, right? But do you get what I'm saying? That there's a difference between those two things. Sometimes it's like with my kids, man. I got to constantly follow up and say, did you clean the room to the level that we expect you to clean the room?
Right.
And then when the answer is no, then we go back in and say, okay, you didn't vacuum over here. You left crap over in the corner. I got to go point out all the stuff that
Yeah.
they didn't get. And I think we deal with the same thing in the workplace, right?
Yeah, we do. But I think it's primarily that inspect and reteach, inspect that way. Because I mean, I know in my life, over my career, it's been hard to, if you didn't know clear expectation, it's been hard to get there, And so I think, it takes a couple of times as you're learning your team or working with somebody new, is that you have to do that. You kind of have to pull back and say, okay, this is what I expect. Let's see if we can get there. We've just been going through our first forecasting exercise the last few weeks, and there's been some of that. Hey, this is what I asked for, but didn't get quite there. So hey, let's talk about it again. And as we kind of start going through our regular cadence on forecasting, I think we'll get better. Or I know we'll get better at it. But it's that, and then also it is communicating better, learning how do people understand better? Is it, long emails with lots of words, or is it, shorter emails with quick bullet points, And so I think it's like you said, it's a balance. But I think, where I need to challenge myself is to step back, inspect, and then reteach. So,
Yeah.
or set the expectations better. So,
Well, I think that there's a part of that that's on us, right? To just try to do a better job of communicating and be more clear, concise with what we're saying. But then I like the follow up that you mentioned, which is the I and the R, right? Inspect and reteach.
Yeah.
Inspect and reteach, and we got to keep going back. And this is, by the way, we use a model when we're designing curriculum, and I share this with our clients a lot too. So people development happens on a spectrum, and most people think you get trained one time and it's done, and
Yeah.
that's lazy leadership. That's not how it goes. That's lazy management. It, People development happens. I don't care for developing business acumen, just day-to-day skills that they need to be able to do the job. Maybe it's a physical job. There's, those things tend to get taken up a little bit faster because you get repetitions with it. Or if it's a real behavior change, if we need somebody thinking a little bit different, expanding their capacity, doesn't matter. It all works on the spectrum. And it goes from awareness to embodiment. From awareness to embodiment. So awareness is the first time I make them aware that this is a thing, that this is the discovery moment that they have where this is possible. Embodiment is the other side and now it's just how they are.
Yeah.
And nobody goes, that is not a light switch process. Right?
It's a journey, right? It's definitely.
It is a journey. And that's part of how you gotta, from an intentional leadership standpoint, I think we need to think about things a little bit differently and say, okay, this is, my expectations are here. My expectation is embodiment. But right now we're just barely past awareness. So there's going to be more inspecting and reteaching. Yeah. So you might as well, as the team leader, I think, set your expectations on a little bit more time allocated to inspecting and reteaching, communicating, inspecting and reteaching. So anyway, just a little model that I think is going to serve people. That your answer inspired for me there. So good. Let's talk about wins that you've had. So what's been your biggest win as a leader?
So when you ask that question, my mind kind of goes back over many years. But I think really the win that I'm most encouraged by right now, I don't want to say proud, just don't, but is building out the team from scratch this year. We started. I came on board early this year, and then started building out a team in April, May timeframe, and I built a team to 10 folks. Commercial sales guys. And a marketing individual. And I think that's been, I felt like that's been a good win because we compressed that many hires into that shorter period of time. And we got really talented people. I mean, I'm fortunate the talent of the people we were able to get. And, but it was timing. It seems like everybody was kind of in a place where, looking for something new or between opportunities. And it just really came together. So I think that there's been lots of wins, and just having the team built, it's probably not a win in itself. It's probably a good solid double or triple because there's still a lot of work left to be done. But that's what I'm most encouraged by right now is just that getting where we are and kind of building out a team here in the U.S. So
you got it. Yeah, that's a huge win, especially in the employment market right now.
Yeah, it is because if anybody, any of the listeners have been hiring people lately, it's not fun. You meet a lot of people, but it's work. It's a big task. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, glad that's a big win for you. You seem like the man for the job because you're getting the people to come over, and I mean just based on your answers, right? I mean I can tell you're putting a lot of time, intention, planning, and those are the things I think people are going to want to stick around for.
So. I hope so. That's my goal. I want to build a successful team, and hopefully that's where we're headed. So,
who's been somebody that's really impressed a lot upon you or inspired you that you've admired over the course of your career?
So I worked for a lot of great people. I think probably one that maybe inspired me to kind of be where I am today is Todd Denson. I worked for Todd at Compass Minerals. He was our senior VP of the plant nutrition division. And we were talking one day. I was asking him, hey, do I need to go back and get my MBA? What do I need to do? Kind of mid to late 30s at that time. And what's next? I think I like where I'm at in life, selling, across, big territories here in the U.S. What do what do I need to do? And he said, look, you can go back and get your MBA. I don't know that you need it. He said, but through that conversation, the biggest thing that stood out was, he said, man, you could do my job. And I don't know that I ever thought about, going to that type of role. I always kind of see myself in a sales position, but when he said you could do my job, it really stuck with me. And he and I, a couple of years ago in Nashville, caught up over a couple beers, and he didn't remember that conversation, but I was like, hey, this is really. He said, hey, I like what you're doing in your career. And I said, look, I think this is what kind of propelled that is when you said, hey, you could do my job. So I think that was a big inspiration. But then, I'm also, I'm really inspired by my wife, because she's probably had as big an impact on my career as anybody else, because she manages, she's a leader at home when I'm gone, you don't sell, build a network over the whole U.S., sit at home and being home every night. So you spend a lot of time on the road. And so she's allowed a lot of that, also to help me get here. Todd may have said, hey, it's within your reach. But she's allowed me to be out and really build a career and do what I need to do. So it's a good team. We work on strategy, and she handles a lot of tactics. When it's growing, when you're raising a family, she's working, getting kids to lacrosse practice and whatever else is happening during the week. And then I show up and enjoy a few good meals at home and watch some high school lacrosse. So it's pretty good life for me. So,
Yeah.
But I think lots of people have impacted where I think where I am today. But that's two that kind of come to mind pretty quick. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, two really good shares, and bonus points for the second one. That's we all need, those of us that have good women supporting us. We definitely always need to be cognizant of how many of them. I have a list of women that have helped make me go over the years, from my mom to my three sisters to my wife to my girls to friends and mentors and people. I mean, there's a long list of women that have been required in my life to make me. So
no, you're good point. Good point. It's
credit is due right there.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I don't know if she'll listen to this or not. Sometimes she thinks I'm kind of boring, but it's it's like I said, I just don't think everybody's help, but it takes a team to get it all done. So,
well, I think it says in the big book, right, that it's not good for man to be alone.
No, it's not. It's definitely not. So,
all right, what books do you read? I see you got a couple on the desk back there behind you. What should people be reading these days to stay on top of their game?
So, John Gordon is kind of who I've been reading most lately.
I love John Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, I wouldn't consider myself a big reader. He really he packs a lot of message into a story that's easy to read, and it really relates to life. I just finished training camp, and it's what great people do or what the best people do to be better. And it's about an athlete that was hurt during training camp. He's a college success. He's still trying to get his way into the NFL, and lots and lots of talent. But it goes back to the practices of the desire you've got, being intentional about the things that you want to do. Being connected to a greater power. There's lots of different, it's 11 different things that the best do to be better. And and having a team that's been out there a long time, I use this to try to find, okay, how can I inspire those guys? And and we've still got to sharpen the knife. You don't buy that knife one time and it stays sharp forever. You got to keep sharpening it. And but also in the past, I've read a lot of John Maxwell. His leadership, servant leader. I think that's something that was modeled for me growing up with my parents and church, and then also through the Boy Scouts. So what John has to say, it really resonates as well. But like I said, John Gordon books have been really good. lately. So
That's great. I loved his energy bus years ago. I think I read probably over 15 years ago when it first came out, and
yeah,
up in airport. And that one really impacted how I think about bringing energy to the situation, how I show up, how I be there, how I be present for other people. So
right,
good
yeah.
author.
Yeah, positive energies. I mean, it's probably been something I struggle with. Being positive, staying positive. I've never thought I was a complainer, but when you kind of read through that book and you think, okay, when you start to complain, now I think more about it. And also I like energy vampires. That's don't let the energy vampires on your bus. That just I think about that a lot. And so when I'm dealing with people or looking to hire people, I constantly got my radar on for energy vampires. So,
Mm.
but
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up. I was just talking with my wife about this this morning, actually, just really watching who you give your energy to, who you open up and allow. And so a lot of us are so hardwired. Maybe it's some of this John Maxwell, servant leadership stuff because we don't want anybody to lose, right?
right,
And some of those people around us are just sucking that energy and they take, right? They're takers and they're not givers. And so it's really important, I think, to be discerning about and be aware, right, of how the people
yeah,
on your team that you work with, even customers sometimes, it's okay to look at the bottom 10% of your customers and try to assess why they're there
right,
and maybe just let them go once in a while.
yeah. Yeah, that's why I heard a guy put it one time. He's like, you rate your customers. Your A customers are the ones that you're taking really good care of and doing a good job with. Your B customers are the ones that you want to build and turn into A customers. And he said sometimes the C you need to rank those C customers, and there may be some that you need to say see you later to. So
Yeah.
it's hard to do because when you want that, you want as many folks as you can trying to help you reach your goals. But you're right. Sometimes you just gotta, if they're a drag, you've got to find some new energy. So
I have a real heart for men specifically, but anybody who finds himself trying to be a pleaser all the time, because I spent a lot of my life there. I'm trying to help people be more intentional for themselves while also being intentional for other people, and that's
yeah,
a big part behind what I'm trying to do with this intention message that we're putting out there.
yeah.
So good stuff, man. What how do you keep your energy up? How do you maximize your productivity? I know you're a planner. I'm sure you're good at prioritizing all that stuff, but what do you do to keep your energy up throughout the day?
So it's a challenge, especially when you're in kind of a deep hard sprint. I try to find time to unplug, a little bit during the day. My office is upstairs. Sometimes I'll just walk downstairs, for a little break, walk outside, take a walk around the house.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, I've spent a lot of time walking in the mornings because that's where the creativity seems to happen. I've gotten kind of busy and not let that be as much of my day as it used to be. I've got to change that. I got, for a couple different reasons. One is it's good for your mental health, but also it's good for your physical health. So,
Mm-hmm.
but then also like on vacation, I'll take days off and I'll turn the phone off, which is not popular, and I've had guys tell me, how do you do it? And I was like, well, I just had, I knew that for you guys for me to be the best for you, for the team, there's times I just got to unplug, so there may be a couple of days that emails pile up. I catch up on when I get back. So,
Yeah.
just a couple of ways. But it's, when you get down in a project, get really pushing hard, you got to make yourself look up and say, okay, take a little break, take a breath, and kind of reset. So that your energy's better. So
I really love that last part about just keeping the phone off while taking that time for yourself. I mean, what I think actually as intentional leaders, and I'll put this a challenge out to all leaders that listen to this. And I would say, as intentional leaders, why do we allow a world where I can't have 3 days alone with my family without feeling bad about not returning a phone call or a text message? I'll put that as a challenge to anybody that wants to listen, because we have created that world. We allow that. We take these phones everywhere. It has all of our everything. We've trained customers that they should be able to get access to information whenever they want it. right? We've trained our employees that they can text us, call us whenever they need to. And that didn't used to be the case, man. Like we're both old enough to remember the 80s and 90s when the phone was stuck to the wall
Right.
and after 5 o'clock, it just didn't ring anymore.
Right. Right. I think that's a good challenge. It's hard to do, but when you can do it and you get back, it just feels better. It's like, okay, because you kind of feel it. Everything just kind of, all right. I got took in a good breath. Now I'm ready to run again. So
Yeah. I mean, I keep a knife sharpener in the drawer where we keep our knives
mm,
for a reason. Because it's easier to cut potatoes and make dinner, whatever it is, or that we're cutting up. It's easier to cut meat, right? It's easier to slice my turkey. It's just Thanksgiving week as we record this podcast, right? It's
yes, right.
easier to slice the turkey with a sharp knife.
It is. It is. And yeah, and you owe it to yourself, and you owe it to your team. You owe it to your team really more to be sharp and to be fresh like that. So
I agree.
we owe it. I owe it to my team to be fresh like that. So
Well, to the team, to your wife, to your
yeah,
kids, to you, even.
yeah,
Right? So, Stephen Covey, who wrote the book Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Probably
yeah.
the most successful personal development, professional development book ever. Okay, and habit number 7, right? Sharpen the saw.
Yeah. Sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the. Here's what's interesting. He took 10 years from the time he started writing that book to when it became a bestseller.
Really.
10 years, a decade to create that book. So that shows you when you take time and focus and you put a lot of intention into that and do exactly what you said, Scott, right? Take some time for you to reflect, to plan, to
Yeah.
think. Man, that's where legendary things can come from.
Yeah. I'd never heard that about it taking 10 years for that book to develop. And, because I think sometimes as a leader, you look at other people who are either authors or are doing it good. You think you see them where they are. You don't think about where what it took to get there.
Yeah.
And what it takes to stay there, so that's that. Thanks for sharing that. I'd never heard that about the book. So
Yeah, I just listened to a podcast recently. It was somebody who works or has worked at that company for a long time at the Frank and Covey company, and talked about how they built that into a $300 million a year business to this day,
wow.
$1 million a year, publicly traded, all the things. And he talked about how much time went into the creation of the first book that then took off, that then led to all the leads and all the things that come into it. So, it's but it comes back. And then my only my argument with the book is that habit 7, sharpen the saw, should be habit 1.
Yeah.
Or at least habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. That's number 1, right? Maybe number 2 should be sharpen the saw, so that you know what you got sharp tools to go get there. You got a sharp mind, you got a sharp body, right? You got good relationships around you to go and take it on. So, man, Scott, this has been a really cool conversation. And I think you got a wealth of knowledge. This team that you've been putting together, I think has got a very intentional leader on their hands, and I look forward to seeing the success that comes from it.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. I hope you're right. Yeah. Hope they've got a good intentional leader. I know he tries. He tries.
You got it, sir. All right. Hey, thank you for being on here
Yeah,
with me.
thanks, Mark.